If there's anything that ought to motivate us to worship God simply by looking at them, it's got to be flowers. And during these months of April, May, June, and July, flowers are truly in their glory. I'm John Lewis, and I can tell you that I am not the gardener in our family. But I'm out here in my wife's flower garden because I just feel drawn to the color and beauty of these amazing flowers. They truly are well described in Matthew 6:29 when Jesus said, "Even Solomon in all his splendor was not arrayed like one of these." Let me give you 3 good reasons that I think we should worship God simply by looking at flowers. First of all, there's intelligent design, then there's awesome creativity, and finally, lavish abundance. There are about 400,000 different species of flowers in the world, but all flowers have one thing in common. They are the maternity ward of the plant kingdom. God has designed every single flower with the specific purpose of reproduction, to create the seeds that are necessary to replicate the plant that they come from. Let's look at how that works. Here's a cutaway picture of the inside of most flowers. In the center, this big green area is called the pistil, and then these fine filaments with a pod on top are called the stamen. Inside each of these pods, called anthers, are up to 1,000 grains of pollen, and when just one of them moves over and lands on top of the pistil, this area called the stigma, it'll start to grow a long tube down the length of the pistil into the area that I call the maternity ward of the flower, because it's down here where the baby seeds are waiting to be fertilized. And when they do get fertilized, they are ready to be planted and start a whole new flower plant. But here's where the intelligent design comes in, because God has designed the colorful petals, the perfume, even the nectar of some flowers specifically to attract pollinators. Pollinators can be bees, they can be birds, insects, anything that will help move that pollen from the anther over here to the stigma and start that reproduction cycle going. It's as if God has designed flowers to each say, me, come and check me out next. As I said, God has designed almost 500,000 different species of flowers and a lot of variation within each species. Now that's a lot of room to be creative, and it doesn't take us long looking at all the different kinds of flowers around the world to see how He's expressed that creativity, from these beautiful, luscious peonies down to these tiny little lilac flowers. But here's something I'll bet you didn't know. All flowers can be divided into 2 kinds, monocots and dicots. Monocots come out of the ground with 1 little leaf, and dicots come out with 2 little leaves. When they mature, we can tell them apart by studying those leaves. The monocot leaves have parallel veins like these from the iris plant. And the dicot leaves have 1 central stem and a lot of little branching veins going out from it. But the easiest way to tell them apart is by looking at the flowers themselves. Monocots always come in clusters of 3, like these beautiful Asiatic lilies, whereas dicots come in clusters of 4 and 5, like these incredible delphiniums. The bottom line is that all this allows God to express His creativity in the way He's designed all the different kinds of flowers in the world, just for us to see. One of the things that always blows my mind when I'm out taking a walk is the lavish abundance with which God spreads wildflowers everywhere. I mean, look at this place. It's nothing special, just alongside the road. And yet here are millions and millions of wildflowers, each one declaring their individual beauty. God is definitely not stingy when He spreads His glory and beauty through flowers in places like this. When we get right up on them, we can see that they're really nothing more than weeds. And yet every single one has got an exquisite glory that it's representing, just like an expensive rose. Let me leave you with 2 final thoughts. If God can express His intelligent design, His awesome creativity, and lavish abundance in something as simple as a flower, then we can be sure he can do the same in human beings like you and me. And then secondly, if flowers basically reflect the handiwork of their maker, that means that when we look at a flower and see some special glory there, we're actually looking at the glory of God. Is there any better excuse you need than that to worship God?